Hi! Some of you just don't get it, do you? My name is Ron. I'm going to get you there. Well, I'm going to sit here while they get you here. That's Bob and Spirit. They are a team of Belgian draft horses. Draft horse just means they're big and strong. They each weigh about 1,800 pounds. And Belgian, just as an indication of where the breed originated. They've been in Canada all their lives. We get our horses mostly off of old order and Amish farmers around here. They breed their own horses, and sometimes they get too many, and so we'll buy them. They've already been trained, harness broken, trained to plow. Most of these have plowed fields for a while before we get them, but they're used to crowds and hard work and so on, and this is what they do. We're going to be heading over to an old order Mennonite farm. That's where the sugar bush is. The only thing I would like to ask you is, first, take as many pictures as you want. Just don't include them in your pictures, okay? They would ask that you respect their privacy. If you catch them incidentally, they don't have a problem with that. But if you were to ask them to pose for you, they would respectfully decline and turn their back to you. Yeah, let's get going.
Okay, thank you.
So it runs from starting April.
By the way, I don't know if Charlene told you, we run trolleys every half hour. You can stay there as long as you like. There's no time limit on your visit. You don't have to come back with me. We've got 2 trolleys running. So when you're ready to come back and there's an available trolley, just hop on. But don't come back just because you're getting cold. Because we have the warmest dining room in the county there. It's heated by a nice wood-burning stove. If you're getting cold but you're not finished doing what you want to do, just go into the dining room, sit down and warm up a bit, and then go back and have some more fun. Okay? Don't rush to come back. The only thing I will say is I go home at 5.
Then so are we.
I've been to log and clear the land and get a crop. And once that was done, it usually took them to late May or possibly, depending on weather, even into early June. Only once that was done did they think about any permanency of residence. And the first residence was an easy choice because they had just prepared all the materials to build it. They had just cut down the trees, and so they would have built a log cabin. I don't know if you've noticed the quilt shop right across from the trolley stand at the market. It marked on some mailboxes, Schneider on others, BBs on some, Kipfers on others, but they're all in clusters. That's not possible anymore because all of the land is taken up. But they still, as much as possible, keep them within the family that way. This family that we're on right now, the farm that we're on right now, was established in the 1840s. They built the brick home about 15 years after they built the log home, because by then the log home was starting to... Now the sugar bush that we're going to be going through is almost entirely maple trees. Now you need them for maple syrup, obviously, but when this area was settled, this bush wasn't exclusively maple. There were all kinds of indigenous trees here. Maple, oak, ash, elm, birch, bass, beech, whatever is indigenous to the area. Once they had settled here and realized the value of maple syrup, they decided if I need wood for my fireplace, why would I cut down a maple tree, which is an income producer? So they started weaning or culling everything out of the bush on an as-needed basis that was not maple. The only time you see maple in the wood pile now is if the tree has been blown over or struck by lightning or is diseased and needs to be taken out to keep the rest of the bush healthy.
That's taking the trees out of the trees, which they really modernized that, eh? There's no more buckets. They don't have buckets anymore, no. Now they have all the tubing that takes the tree sap from one spot to another.
Where did he bite you?
Grab my finger.
Can I see?
She's moving.
Do you want to try the saw, Jaden?
Okay.
So what happens is they try to stay in general because they want those things like being leaders and stuff like that. They say no, you don't try to right? So it's
They didn't start out trying to be different, but when the Mennonite movement began nearly 500 years ago, the authorities of Europe called them radicals. They were ordinary Christians who refused to baptize their babies because they believed that adults should choose whether or not to join the church. They also refused to fight in war, and some early groups practiced communal sharing of possessions. These beliefs were too radical for the wider society, and the Mennonites were imprisoned, killed, or driven from their homes in Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands. They found refuge in more tolerant parts of Europe and North America. Pennsylvania welcomed Mennonites beginning in 1683, and 100 years later, the first Mennonites migrated to Ontario. They came partly looking for new lands to farm, and partly from the concern that the new American Republic would make them fight in war. They traveled over 800 kilometers in Conestoga wagons pulled by oxen, across mountains, forests, and the Niagara River. Of course, not everyone is interested in history.
You know the story about the Mennonites coming up from Pennsylvania in the Conestoga wagons?
no.
With their early experience of oppression, it's not surprising that the Mennonites kept their heads down in North America. They became known as the quiet in the land, keeping to themselves and working hard on tiny farms. These days, Mennonites in Ontario form a diverse patchwork, and there are many different voices within the community. But there is a rough agreement among Mennonites about the important things in life. One of those important things is community. Mennonites believe that Christian faith costs something, and they feel their faith intensely when they work together, helping each other and the wider world.
In a community, you are never alone. When there is a natural disaster, people will support you morally and financially. We believe the Christian Brotherhood has this responsibility.
New technology has consequences for community and family. Computer games are a poor substitute for playing outside, and cars move too fast to really enjoy the journey.
So now, if we go to a mile with the horse, it takes us an hour to drive. And if we go to the car, it takes us 15 minutes. But with the car, you whiz along, and if you see something, you're past before you can show it to somebody else. Whereas with horses, well, everybody has lots of time.
Mennonites have always weighed the benefits of new technology against the cost to community. But there is always room for disagreement, and Mennonites have often divided over the pace of change. The biggest division in Waterloo County happened in 1889, when a large number of Mennonites cautiously embraced modern culture. The others became known as Old Order Mennonites and chose to maintain a separate identity from the wider world. Today, most Mennonites in Ontario lead entirely modern lives, but the old orders have deliberately chosen to follow an older pattern of life.
We believe in non-conformity. Because Christianity shall be foremost in our lives, we try to dress as we understand is acceptable to our Creator.
Prayer covering is of great importance to us. First, we understand that it is a requirement taught by the Holy Scripture, and that women wear their head covering when praying. It is also a symbol of submission to our husbands, not to say that the husband has priority over the wife, but to show the true ordinance of the creation.
Among the Old Order Mennonites, a few different groups have evolved over the years, again dividing over the pace of change. Some groups allow quite sophisticated business operations on their farms. Some allow English rather than German in their worship services. Others allow cars, provided that the cars are black. And there are other plain communities in Ontario, such as the Amish, who arrived from Europe in the 1820s, and conservative Old Colony Mennonites who immigrated much more recently from Mexico. These groups all share the same historical roots as other Mennonites, but they have their own unique stories. Despite the differences among the Mennonite groups in Ontario, they all cooperate on many projects to offer assistance to the wider world. One of these projects is the annual Mennonite Relief Sale in New Hamburg, famous for its quilt auction and fresh strawberry pies. At home on the farm, days begin early, and the work changes according to the rhythms of the season. Many farms are mixed dairy operations. Many old order Mennonite farmers now use tractors, but some continue to work the land with teams of horses. Farmhouses are often sprawling buildings with a dotty house where grandparents can live, and children typically grow up surrounded by their extended family. Children take on chores at a young age, but they have plenty of playtime on the farm.
City children don't get to help with corn or to bale hay or straw. They don't know how it is to feel mud squish up between your toes while waiting on the creek. When they ride in a car, they don't see all the wonderful things in nature. That's why I think country life is so much better.
I planted my first garden when I was just 6 years old. My mom showed me how to do it. She helps me take out the weeds, but I water it with a pail. If it doesn't rain much, it needs lots of water.
It is important for us Mennonites to pray before eating, to thank God for all the food He gives us.
Parents teach their children by giving them projects, such as tending their own garden, or caring for farm animals, sewing for the girls, and woodworking for the boys. Formal education goes to grade 8 at parochial schools around the countryside. There's no formal physical education, but chores and outdoor play make old order children some of the healthiest in Canada. Women are busy with childcare, cleaning, baking, sewing, and seasonal tasks, such as canning, quilting, gardening, and butter making. Most homes now have electricity, although it arrived in the barns before it came into the kitchen. Quilting provides women an opportunity for both artistic expression and socializing, especially during the winter months. Many farms in the countryside around St. Jacob sell homegrown produce, furniture, and quilts. Farmers also bring their goods to the farmers market just south of St. Jacob's and to a wholesale cooperative near Elmira. But you can't buy anything on Sunday because that's a day for worship, rest, and fellowship. Old order meeting houses are plain and simple because they believe that life outside church is just as sacred as inside. Ministers and deacons are nominated by church members and then chosen by lot. They receive no pay and remain farmers. There are no musical instruments at church, and hymns are sung in a chanting style that goes back centuries. But on Sunday night after church, old order youth will often gather to sing more complicated harmonies in 4 parts. After worship, neighbors are typically invited home for an elaborate meal with a variety of meats, a range of vegetables, and several desserts. This is digested during an afternoon of visiting and walks. It's a little ironic that the old order Mennonites attract so much curiosity from visitors because their intention is to lead low-key, quiet lives. And sometimes this attracts more attention than is really welcome. We just ask you to remember that they are real people, and we invite you to give them the same courtesy that you would give to anyone else. If you're not used to it, it may seem strange to see people driving by on horse and buggies, or dressing in clothes from another century. Like any community, the old orders are not perfect, and they are sometimes criticized for leading an overly sheltered lifestyle. But on the other hand, it's not clear that the modern life is a happier one, or a better one. The old order Mennonites know who they are. They care for the land and each other. They do what they can to help out in the wider world, and they are your neighbors.